Good evening. We are live. It is a Thursday evening, and I imagine at some point tonight there is a game kicking off in America that we all know and love. And the football season is back. The kids are back at school. The days are getting shorter. Pumpkin spice lattes are out, my favourite drink. No hate. And only one more certainty. Well, hopefully not this weekend. Is the Colts losing streak on week one. I'm sure there's one person in this room that's hoping the Colts lose, and that's Graham, the kilted Texan. Graham, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am Graham Henderson, aka the Kilted Texan, the man behind Texans UK on Twitter. Just been a fan of the team since 08. Been travelling back and forward since then, hence the bullpen that you're looking at. I've kind of got one of those crazy addictions to my team. Been lucky to go out as much as I do. I was out at the start of this season for the Hall of Fame game in Canton. So that was, I think, game 41 that I've seen them play since 08. So, yeah, I'm just an avid Texas fan who lives in Scotland in the corner, and I do what I can for my team.
Now, one more question before I introduce Nathan, as always. Did you choose the Texans because you thought, I'm a nice, pale Scottish man, I need the sunniest place possible in America to work on my town? What was it?
No, well, we all know Scottish people that when we tan, we go blue, then we go back to being white. We don't really tan that well. We're like lobsters and stuff. So no, family moved out there in 08 and went out and visited and went to a game on one of the trips, the first trip out, and haven't looked back since. Just loved everything about what the Texans organization were like, the fan base outside, the stadium, amazing, everything they do. And yeah, it's just been the obsession ever since. I've just been really lucky in how it's all worked out for me.
Amazing. Join me as always. One of the famous trio of the UK Colts fans, I'd say, is Nathan. How's it going, bud?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks, mate. Really good. Really looking forward to the season.
So we have an Englishman, a Welshman, and a Scotsman. There is a joke in there somewhere. But now to the stuff that matters. Week one, the biggest game of the season. Don't care what anyone says. It is the biggest rivalry in the AFC, possibly the whole of the NFL. I'll start with you, Nathan. How are you feeling about the Colts' chances of breaking the losing streak on week one?
I mean, we couldn't ask for a better opener, right? You always want to win your division games, and you always want to, protect home. And we get a chance to do that week one. And I think the off season's been interesting from, a kind of rivalry standpoint. There's been back and forths online between CJ Stroud and Zaire Franklin, EJ Speed. I was tuning into the Trenches podcast, shout out Trenches podcast on YouTube, and just watching that is fascinating. So let's see how it translates on the field. I mean, what a way to to fire up some of the absolute key players' backside.
Yeah. Graham?
I think it's a great way to start. Like Nathan said there, get off to a great start in your division early by getting the one up. So I'm really looking forward to it. I don't really look too much into your guys, having won on week one. That's more like a Colts issue more than it should be something that we should latch onto. Because then we can get complacent in that, thinking that because of that like hoodoo that you've got, that might help us in any way. I think we just need to go out and execute the way we should, and leave all that kind of headspace stuff for you guys to deal with, and we shouldn't feed into that at all. I think that would be the best way for us to move forward on that.
I was still muted. I suppose it's like you say, I don't know how much players and coaches read into these hoodoos, jinxes, bogey teams, whatever you want to call it. Cold rainy night on Stoke on a Tuesday. It speaks sort of to volumes of how unstable I suppose the Colts have been over the last few years as a franchise. Washed up quarterbacks, big injuries, starters, kickers not being kickers, and etc. 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 I could go on. Graham, a while ago, I used to laugh at the Texans for the absolute dumpster fire you was. It seems like you're never going to be there as a franchise, and then you watch your team go 2-12. But all of a sudden, everyone's sort of starting to take note of the Texans, because ever since you got rid of the B&M version of Kurt Angle, Bill O'Brien, and you got in a serious GM, and you got rid of Deshaun Watson, and everyone was like, well, what's going on here? It seems like you've currently got a GM and a front office that are going in the right direction. Would you say that's about right?
Yeah, massive culture change in the Houston Texans organization. When you look back at the Bill O'Brien era, for all his failures, you have to look and say he has been like one of the most successful managers in our short time that we've had, like our head coaches, brought a lot of division titles to us. Then came like the maniacal side and wanting to have almost full control of the organization. You might have heard of the name Jack Easterby, was there for a while. He was like behind the scenes, and people thought he had like Carl McNair's ear. He was leading the team down the wrong route. All those factors got cleared out. Build Lovie Smith a statue for winning the final game of the season before the 2023 draft. It moved us to 2. Then we pick up CJ Stroud. We get in new coaching staff in D'Amico, who used to be team captain for us when he played the game. Knows how to lead men. Different. All this culture came at the right time. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Everything's changed. We've got 4 new kits this year. We've got a new logo. We're rocking new helmets. There's just all this buzz around the team. And after what we did last year, you're even seeing talent want to come to Houston. Guys we wouldn't have been able to attempt with all the money in the world down to Houston. They're just coming now. They want to play for us. And that it's kind of a weird place to be in. I haven't seen like this much hype about Houston since maybe like the 2012 season or the 2011 season, when Matt Shaw went down with his injury and we had to roll with the backups and stuff. It's a weird place to be. I like it. I'm here to sign up any bandwagon fans who want to come on board for the ride. But yeah, it's weird hearing the Texans talked about so much in the sports media, because normally that we're grazed over, and I don't know why, because I think our division is one of the most competitive divisions. You never really know how it's going to go from one year to the next. You guys are normally up there or thereabout, and have been going back to like the old rivalries, like when it was Manning and stuff. I always thought it's been great to watch and that, but a lot of people don't really look at our division like that, and it kind of that upsets me. But this year, I think it's going to be different. People are obviously talking about us, you guys, and I know we should be like totally rivalrying it up here, but I think you guys are going to be sneaky good this year. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about in that, and the Texans have just managed to just turn this whole thing around. Carl McNair's everyone was wanting him to sell the team. Now everyone loves him. They sell T-shirts with his face on it for Carl's cookout when he's cooking burgers at the training camp and stuff. The dude's posing for like sideways H's up and everything and photos and that. He's shotgunning beers with Luke Coombs when Luke Coombs is playing NRG. On stage. It's 188. I don't know. My head's still spinning, and I'm so excited for this season.
That just as a football fan, we pay our extortionate game passes, subscriptions, ticket fees. So I think we have the right to be as fickle as they come, and that is the part and for the sport. If you was a fan that was always optimistic or always pessimistic, it would be absolutely no fun at all. Nathan, just to touch on that, Graham said this is the best division he's ever watched ever, and nobody comes close. Do you share the same sentiment in the fact that, I've always joked about it, I would say sidelined with Robbie, that we are the strongest division, and we always laughed like, no, it's the worst division. But is the AFC South now a division not to be messed with? You look, Trevor Lawrence, who probably overrated, but has the talent. You got Anthony Richardson, who's still a bit of a mystery, but we saw flashes, especially as Colts fans. You got CJ Stroud, who is, it pains me to say this being a rival, but he's probably been, I would say, rookie of the year last year from what I saw of him. And then you've got, you've got the Titans, but nobody cares about them.
Yeah, I mean, I actually wanted to talk about that, so I'm really glad that Graham beat me to it. I think I totally agree with you, Graham. I think for a very long time, our division, it's almost just been uncared for. I mean this in the most respectful way, but I think there was a period where, 12 was suiting up for us, Andrew Luck, where, the cameras were kind of on the division. But as soon as Luck retired, it just felt like, everybody gave up on the South. For me, I think it is, easily now the most fascinating division in football, especially for new football fans to come on board. I mean, I'm totally with Graham in that. I think the teams that are playing in the South are absolutely great starting points for any fan. We could be talking potentially, a 10-year rivalry between Stroud and Richardson. Trevor Lawrence, the prodigal son, right? The next, Peyton Manning, the next John Elway, when, his number was raised in the draft. Has he hit those heights? I think we would all say no. Could he hit those heights? Absolutely, yes. When Tennessee move on from the guy that likes Mayo a lot, I think it'll be very, very interesting. Potentially we could be talking about a division where 4 top 5 picks are playing in, are a really high standard at the quarterback position. I would categorically agree with that sentiment. And I agree with Graham's point also. You said so much stuff that resonated with me there. Yes, it would be easy to kind of, turn on the rivalry chat and, pretend we're kind of at war with each other. But also there is that level of mutual respect. What Ryans has done and what CJ did last year, it put the league on notice, man. Especially me, I used to look forward to watching, highlights of Texans games, and I was constantly looking at what CJ was doing. And of course, there's more to it than CJ, right? But yeah, I'll say that's my answer for now.
It's like that, and Nathan knows, Graham, I'm quite a massive Arsenal fan, and for years and years, I've had to mumble under my breath that Harry Kane is a one-season wonder, and I will always stick to that sentiment that Harry Kane is a one-season wonder because he obviously played for Spurs. But you just have to say with your eyes closed when nobody's in 100 yards of you, and you have to admit when there's a great player on the other side of the ball who you would just love to have. And I suppose that's what we all saw with CJ Stroud. And I remember at the time he was drafted pretty similar to Anthony Richardson. There was questions whether, can he make the same old tired questions we get from so-called experts who know everything about the game, and you must draft Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning. You have to, because they just know, right? They know. And I think he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, and he's a bit arrogant, but I like that. He's coming to a big brand, the Texans. So I suppose it's not just really a rivalry with the AFC South and the Colts. It's also a rivalry off the field, you could say, with trying to be the biggest brand in Texas and trying to be that team who, gets the All or Nothing series and gets the famous cheerleaders, etc., etc.
Yeah. I mean, I think CJ's been quite, open about that himself, right? Which, I imagine Graham's going to come on to as well, in that, he was insanely passionate about, getting the city to wear, Texans jerseys again, and, how proud he feels that kind of everywhere he looks now, he's seeing, Texans merchandise and stuff, on people's backs. So, yeah, I'll hand over to Graham to answer that.
Yeah, I think when he got drafted, there was all that noise about, the test. He didn't perform very well in the test. He also was an Ohio State quarterback. They don't transition very well to the league, historically, from expert talk. But here he is doing what he was doing. I thought he was good, but after the Buccaneers game, I thought he was special. And it's just about riding that storm. Like, I don't find him that arrogant, but then he's my quarterback. I'm maybe going to think that, but he's a great leader. He was named a team captain this year. That's a huge thing for some of these guys, because you're voted in by your peers in the team. They recognize you as that kind of guy. Not saying I am, but he is hugely religious. And I think there's a few of the guys in the Texans locker room like that now, and that's really helped settle everyone's on the same page. They're all on the same page, and I think he demands that kind of consistency from everyone now, and everyone looks to him as the leader of this team already, and that's massive. Luckily for us, we got as good a defensive talent in the same draft, and he also gets looked at as like a leader on defense. So those two guys coming in as rookies, rookie head coach, it was just an unbelievable transformation. Like, a lot of people didn't have us down for 4 wins last year. I think when I was asked, I had us up about 8 or 9. So for us to finish out the way it did, brilliant. But going back to this game this weekend, this is going to be a very difficult game. I was lucky enough to be up for the last game of the season last year. I was in Houston, and I flew up before I come home to the Loud House, as they call it. Brilliant, fantastic stadium, very, very loud. So I know how difficult it's going to be on Sunday for those players. Luckily, some of them experienced it last year at the end of the season. I honestly, it was deafening. I don't think there's 1 or 2 times in NRG I've been that's come close to that, but that was just like insanely loud for like the first 3 quarters, and then it kind of petered out a bit at the end. But oh my goodness, those promos you do on the big screen with Pat McAfee and stuff, the place was like everyone was frothing at the mouth. So I know exactly what they're in for on Sunday, and I know it's going to be very difficult, but I think it'll make for a fantastic game because of it.
Yeah. So speaking of Sunday, Nathan, I am aware you're pretty time constrained, so I'll come to you. Where do you see the Colts' strengths and weaknesses leading on Sunday? What is? I know Gus Bradley's never going to change, but is Gus Bradley going to change? Is Shane Steichen drop? This is going to be a start where we've got a healthy Anthony Richardson, a healthy Jonathan Taylor, a healthy Michael Pittman, a healthy Quentin Nelson. If I was Graham, I wouldn't be too happy hearing all them healthy names.
Yeah, I guess. Where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start on offense or defense?
You start offense. Let's go on the attack.
So, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think our biggest strength is the kind of, big names on paper. I mean, can you imagine our red zone package with Taylor and Richardson there ready to receive the ball? I mean, try and defend that, This is a combination that the Colts have invested in. Taylor held out, he got his deal. Richardson's a fourth overall pick, and they played 3 snaps together. So the unknown, I think, is a strength. The line is back, a line that was really, really good last year, trending top 10 towards the end of the season. We've brought them back. Our younger line, our left tackle, right guard. They've got a year under their belt, another year of health. So let's see what we can do. We've got Michael Pittman Jr. back on what seems like one of the best deals in the league. We go back 4 months and Pitt was kind of leading the wide receiver market. Come forward 4 months and he doesn't even appear on the first page of your Google search for wide receiver contracts. So how Ballard pulled that off, I'll never quite know. I think a really interesting player for me this year is Josh Downs. I know his health is a little bit questionable right now. He managed to avoid a big injury, but again, more unknown. We invested again in the draft in Adonai Mitchell, a star receiver coming out of Texas. We've seen him play in the slot at a pre-season, so let's see what we can do. And ultimately, mate, I think we know that we're going to see bomb plays this year. We're going to see Anthony unleashing that kind of cannon arm that he's got, which is something we haven't really been able to see for so long as Colts fans. And I'm absolutely certain that opposing teams are, planning for that as well. If I switch over to the defensive side of the ball, we know we've upgraded our pass rush, right? How did Laiatu fall to Indy in this draft? If you haven't, to any of our viewers, try and find the video that the Colts put up of Chris Ballard's reaction when Laiatu fell in the draft. I won't say it here because I think we're a family-friendly podcast, but Ballard's pretty fired up that Laiatu fell, right? So, he's wearing a famous number 90 as well. Are we going to see the next kind of Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis in the AFC South? I certainly hope we are. But Graham, I'm sure if you tuned in, you'll start to sense a theme that Harrison and I are not the biggest Gus Bradley fans. We have to be, subjected to his soft coverage schemes and just watch, opposing quarterbacks pick us apart. Look, I'll cover off a weakness and then I'll hand over. I think a weakness on Sunday is going to be passes over the middle. Bradley has shown that he will not move from cover 3. Last year, we saw CJ pick teams apart over the middle. Even more fascinating with the whole YouTube rivalry. The big rivalry are going to be covering the middle of the field. EJ and Zaire are going to be fired up, ready for this match. But we've got to defend Stephon Diggs now. you know, and Nico Collins and Tank Dell are studs, you know. I'm huge fans of both of them. And now Stephon Diggs has come to town. So the middle of the field is going to be the weakness, I think, or at least the weakness that I think they'll try and expose.
So, Graham, yes, we like to sit in soft coverage. I don't know why. It is horrendous to watch as a Colts fan, but having CJ Stroud opposite and having him on your side, your eyes must light up every time you see, CJ get a 5-yard pillow coverage on these flats. You must just, because as a rookie, he's shown he can take the easy ball. He's not afraid to take the easy ball. I think these rookies sometimes come into the league and they think, I'm not allowed to take it, go for your progression read. But CJ Stroud is so quick to go 1-2, hit him, or he's not there, I'm gone. So coming into Sunday, Graham, your strengths and your weaknesses, what you're afraid of. I mean, we don't have the name T.Y. Hilton anymore, so that must be what you're happy to see the back of. But, who are you looking forward to seeing? What matchups are you looking at, etc.?
T.Y. was more frightening at NRG, believe it or not.
Yeah, he owned that place.
Yeah, well, I think he's still got a suite there. But yeah, strength for us, obviously, you were saying there, soft over the middle, and with our wide receiving core, I personally think we've got one of the best receiving cores in the league this year. Just with the numbers that those guys can put up. Like Tank Dell didn't last all last season because of his injury, but when he was on the field, the things he was doing, the catches he was making, he can turn and burn. He just had defenses scared, and that leads to someone like Nico being open and then having a bumper year. Because they're having a double team, but then who do you double team now? Yeah. If you can line up with all of them in a package, who are you covering? And then Dalton Schultz, very capable tight end over the middle, big body in the middle there, safe hands, just security blankets. So I think CJ can have a good game in that respect and just take what the defense gives you. Like people often try and force it and stuff. But you said like rookies come in there and they feel this need to, they can't take that ball. Just take it. I'll take 5 yards. Every second down you've got a first down if you're taking the 5. You just got to work your way up. And if you're killing clock as well, keeping the home offense off the field, do that. That plays to your strengths when you're on the road. Quieting the crowd down by stifling the ball. For us on offense there, like Joe Mixon, I think he'll be starting up. Haven't seen a lot of him because he's been injured most of the preseason. That might be a thing for us because I think Damian Pierce is RB2. I think he locked in at RB2. And first year in the league, numbers very impressive. Last year, not so much. Devin Singletary motor, he took over as RB1. But I think in preseason, Damian Pierce has only been making on average 1 point something yards per carry. Mm-hmm. So our running game hasn't been where it needs to be yet. So that could be a cause of concern because sometimes you just got to run the ball when you're away as well. You've got to grind out those yards. So that could be a weakness for us. Seeing how the run game adapts, because I actually think the Colts are better stifling that as well. Yeah, that's just my take on how you guys all, you're very downhill on the defense, and you won't give us a lot there, so you'll have to force us maybe more to the passing game. That might work in our favor, but then again, it might not. It might be unsettled. We don't know this yet. On defense, Texans are looking okay there. We've got a quite star-studded old defense over there. Brought in Danielle Hunter. I think he had 16 or 18 sacks last year, to line him up on the opposite side from Will Anderson Jr. He's back. after having suffered an ankle injury most of the preseason. So that'll be an interesting combo there. Like, just how effective can we be at getting to Richardson? Because he's such a big body unit. He can move. I'll say very, like, in my opinion, Cam Newton-esque, you know, when he was the Superman. Very hard to stop. If I remember right, Richardson was very effective against the Texans when we met, but he went out with concussion against us, didn't he?
Yes.
And that changed the game. You know, like at that up until that point, Richardson was having his way with the Texans last year. Up until that point. And then the team totally switched. It was like it wasn't geared for what was next.
Yeah.
That's how I seen that game go. So yeah, he's a frightening aspect to defend. But as for the deep threat, like, I'm very happy with how we look at, you know, corner and safety in that. Where Derek Stingley Jr. I just think the dude's awesome. Kamari Lassiter, I think he's going to be suiting up for his first start in the NFL. That dude's got some sort of swagger going about, because he turns up with like no gloves, no kit. You know, like, he's got nothing extra. There's nothing. He's just there to ball. So I'm going to see who they're going to stay away from. You know, because who are they not going to go for? Jalen Petrie in his newer. You know, he's been put kind of back more into his college role. He is already this season so far in preseason. I know it's only preseason, but he's looked more like his year one Jalen Petrie. His tackling looks better. You know, he's not trying to DJ Swearinger you into the first row of the stands. So I think that's a lot better. Maybe our linebacking core isn't as strong with Christian Harris being out. So yeah, there's so many pluses and minuses, and these two teams, like, because we lock horns so much, you see it in the draft. Like, when one of us does something, we like totally knee jerk react, and then we like the draft board probably changes completely to be like, well, we've got to neutralize that threat and try and get one up here and then neutralize that threat. So I just love Texans Colts games.
Yeah,
you know.
It is what it is. Like you say, I think it's funny. It's a rivalry, but it's a respected rivalry in the sense we can, as fans and I suppose communities of these teams, we can appreciate we haven't been great teams and great franchises for quite a while. It took a long time for the Colts to get the off-field sorted, and now we are just starting to get the on-field sorted. You know, it took a long time to get rid of the Griggs and just stink around the place. And, you know, as much as I loved Frank Reich as a person and what he did for the community in time it was struggling, and he steadied the ship, his locker room was rife of just absolute off-field problems. Maybe because he was too nice and too much of a forgiving guy. He was a pastor, I think, as well. So okay. I think he played a lot into the forgiveness angle, but a lot of players and personalities who shouldn't have been in the locker room took advantage of that. But now we've sorted that off-field stuff out. On-field, we're going the right way. And I pretty much say that's the same for the Texans. I would say the strengths of the Colts coming into Sunday is, Nathan touched on it, is the unknown. Everyone likes to think they know, but I think even Colts fans would be lying if they said they knew what the Colts were going to come out and do. Obviously, you'll have Dan Orlovsky or someone saying, oh, they're going to do this and they're going to do that. They'll name the obvious plays, right? They'll name the obvious ones, what are like 70% going to hit. But I think Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson is a 1-2 combo that's being overlooked because of the Ravens at the minute. I think everyone's looking at the Lamar, Derrick Henry, you know, and I think it's people tend to forget about Jonathan Taylor because of the situation last year. but they forget that Jonathan Taylor's taken Derrick Henry's crown away from him and made him move division. So
yeah, the king is dead.
Yeah. I think the big weakness for the Colts is, so on defense, I love our front seven, and in that I include the four on the front line in the trenches, and then Zaire, EJ Speed, and Kenny Moore. That, other than that, I've got to say I don't know what we've got, and I'm not impressed with what we've got. Maybe because they're young. We was quite young, quite hamstrung last year with injuries on defense. And maybe Juju Brents is probably the only other one who I can say was good, but he had a big injury last year. And is he going to be the same player he was? And I think if CJ Stroud is smart and can stay away from Kenny and stay away from Zaire, I think we're in trouble. But yeah, so I mean, hopefully not. I'm obviously hope we're going on strong and it's a good old routing. But I think it's going to be a good game, boys. So I'll come to. One more weakness is obviously Matt Gay, our kicker, has just had a surgery, so he's probably going to be out for this week. And we've got a rookie plucked out of nowhere. You know, I think he was just walking it down Indianapolis Boulevard past Lucas Oil Stadium and past the steakhouse. And yeah, Chris Ballard's just gone, there you go and kick the ball. That's probably doing Spencer Schrader some disservice. But that, as a Colts fan who's watched Pat McAfee, punter of the decade, and Adam Vinatieri to Rigoberto Sanchez and Rodrigo Blankenship, I understand how bad special teams can affect a game.
Yeah.
So that's maybe one to watch out for. So with that in mind, I'll start with the guest as always. So Graham, your prediction coming up for this Sunday?
I think I'm going to be for me. I think the Texans will get it. But I think it's going to be 28-21. I think it's going to be a tough one. The last game we had was tough, relatively good scoring game. So yeah, I'm going to go 28-21. Texans win it.
Nathan, are we going to break the week one curse?
I've been dreading this question. I'm really set on a score of 24-21. And do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go for it. We're going to break the week one curse. Taylor and Richardson are going to ball out, and we're going to win 24-21.
I like the positivity. Yeah, I've got to back my boys. That's what we sign up for, right? If you don't back your own team, then there's no point in watching, especially when it comes to a divisional game. I'm going to go. Oh, God, it is tough. I've said it with chest and then not had a score in mind at all. I'm going to go a 28-17 win for the Colts because I think I'm hoping we get the Texans into a hole early, which forces, I know he's not technically a rookie, he's a sophomore or whatever they call it, but forces a young quarterback to go and try and win the game. And that could maybe be his undoing. So that's the prediction for the game. Now I just want to get a bit of, now that's aside, an insight into the Texans, Graham, and their season coming up. Looking, unfortunately, we can't meet each other in the Super Bowl. I might ring Goodell and, pull some strings and get him to change it just for us. But are you a Super Bowl contender? Do you see your team? What is success this year for the Texans? We know only one team can win the. We know only one team can win the Lombardi, but do you think the Texans are going all the way? Do you see the Texans' success as a deep playoff run? Just before I let you answer, I'm going to let Nathan go because he's time constrained. So Nathan, thanks for joining us. And last words to Graham.
Good luck, mate. It's been really nice to meet you. Really nice to talk to you. You clearly know your Texans ball, so yeah, may the best sophomore win, and go Colts.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Nathan.
Bye.
So as I was saying, success for the Texans this year, what does it look like?
Well, there's a lot of noise about us being Super Bowl contenders this year, and based on the talent we have in the building right now and what we managed to do with the talent last year that wasn't on the same caliber, I can see us making the Super Bowl. I can't see us making it. Whether we do or not is another story.
Yeah.
Like I've had it said for weeks. I have Lions Texans as the Super Bowl. That's the two teams I've got in the Super Bowl.
You're putting money on that? You're going to put money on that? You get good odds for that.
Yeah, right? I might put a little cheeky one on it. And I've heard it. Like, so I've been documented saying that weeks ago. Like, I think Texans Lions, and I'm starting to hear it now out of the pundits. So that's actually kind of scaring me now that it's not going to happen, because we all know how they get on. But the success for the Texans, I think, would be to go one step further this year and make it to the championship game.
Yeah,
you know, is get over that hurdle and make it to a game where you're playing for some proper hardware.
Yeah.
I think that's a realistic look at it. Obviously, we'd love to be in the Super Bowl. You know, I'll be cheering from the stands in New Orleans. But but that's success for me. But it's going to be very difficult because the strength of schedule that we have is going to be tough. But I think we've got the Chiefs and the Ravens back to back late on in the season. So that could be us in playoff mode then.
Yeah.
You know, and you shouldn't be too scared because you have to play these teams at some point. You have to be able to beat these teams at some point. So it's maybe even that could be the success for us is getting over those tough games, then pushing forward into playoffs with the confidence that we can beat these guys when they're at late season form and they're flying and doing what they normally do. So yeah, but championship game for me would be a huge success this year.
Yeah, it's one of them, you know, looking at the divisions them two teams are in, you're hoping at that point of the season, them two teams might have a playoff berth wrapped up. That would work extremely well in your favour. You know, and I think it's the same for us. I think we spent so long watching, you know, Matt Ryan, who can't throw it 5 yards, Carson Wentz, who doesn't know how to throw it 10 yards but can throw it 90 yards, and then Phillip Rivers, who can't throw it past the 20-yard line. It's just nice to be on a team, probably like yourselves a bit, that seems to be on the up escalator. And I just love it if the Colts could just keep on going on that escalator. I'm not really bothered. Obviously, I'd love the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Who wouldn't? That's why we all start watching and dedicate, you know, essentially 9 months of our lives to watching these guys throw a pigskin around. So, so what you're saying, Graham, is you're winning the Super Bowl and, you know, you're putting your rubber stamp on that right now this second.
There we go. Right. You can put on denied on your one if you want. But
yeah, so last part of the show now. I just like to have a bit of fun, just nice, easy questions and maybe a bit more explanation for people who don't know about you, don't know about the Texans. So I'll start with a plain, simple one. You touched on it before, but why the Texans?
Yeah, so we went out on vacation to visit my in-laws when they moved out there. So we let them settle. Then we went out in November of 2008 to visit. And as one of the tourist things to do, it was like, let's go and see a Texans game. You know, it's on your doorstep and that. And I remember turning up, and I don't know if people I've looked up the kilted Texan or anything, they'll see what I wear nowadays. You know, I've got the full rig on with the big horn hat and stuff. But my first ever game at NRG, I had a bought for me Mario Williams jersey and a pair of shorts and a baseball cap, and that was me. Fast forward to what I'm like now is totally different. But on that day, we were tailgating in the red lot, and we were at tailgate, and the guy asked us if it was our first Texans game, and we said yeah, and he was like, well, where are you sitting? So we showed him the tickets, and he was like, oh no, you're not sitting there for your first game. So he swapped his tickets with ours, and he was like, it was a corporate tailgate that we'd been invited to, and he was sitting club level. You know, it was order stuff to your seat.
Wow.
You didn't even have to leave your seat to get your drink or your food. And he was like, order anything you want on me. I just want you to have a blast. And we got smashed by the Ravens 45-13 that day. And I think we were like some of the last people to leave, just soaking it all up, just amazing. And he said to us, come back and see us after the game because I want to know how it was. So I went back. They now had a DJ playing in their tailgate. After the game, everyone was like dancing, even though we'd just been like annihilated. And I was like, I told him I had a great time, great experience. That was amazing. And he's like, I'm really glad you enjoyed it. That's what we're all about here. And ever since then, I've just been a Texans fan. And when I'm there, trying, like, you know, it's pass it forward, isn't it? You know, you want people to enjoy the experience as much as you do. And that's why I've become a Texans fan. And luckily, the Texans as an organization have, on the whole, like they've been fantastic with me. They gave me permission to use the logo on the kilts and stuff. And
nice.
Yeah, I even got permission to use the new one. You know, so they're a good franchise, and I think they understand that. Well, what is it? I'm 4,629 miles away from NRG Stadium, and they understand that. And I couldn't have picked a better team.
Yeah,
you know, and in my opinion, for me, luckily I can go there and visit family so much, and that means I can tie in so many games. But yeah, they're fantastic. Everyone that I've met that works there, being brand new, everyone who works hard for the traveling Texans and stuff. Yeah, they're all brilliant. Can't fault any of them.
Excellent. The next one, obviously, I can see some big names in the background there. Do you have in that absolute man cave a favourite bit of memorabilia?
Oh, I think I'll try and spin it round. The red helmet.
Yep.
Only because I got that helmet given to me by one of my friends in Houston before the Philadelphia Eagles game on the Thursday night, when they used the red helmets for the first time.
Wow.
And we managed to wangle sideline passes, and I got it signed by the first player to sign it that day was my favorite player, and that's the long snapper, John Weeks. He was the first dude to sign it. I've got Fairbairn and Cam Johnson and stuff on it as well, but John Weeks, first guy to sign the red helmet. I've got 3 of his jerseys signed by the man himself. You know, so anything with John Weeks in here is like gold dust. You know, you just don't get John Weeks' signature stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like the longest serving Texan. He's played for the team for over a decade. He hasn't missed a game, I don't think. So this season he'll be rattling up to near 300 games, I think, or 250. You know, just a ledge. So anything with John Weeks in here, and that's like top notch.
I love that because, you know, long snappers are guys who are not going to get the fame and the glitz and the glory. You know, I'd see the TJ Watt and I thought, the JJ Watt jersey in the background. I thought, it's going to be that, because why wouldn't it be? But to have an absolute unsung hero as the idol, as the guy, that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
The last one I got for you really is, so you've got your chance. You're GM of the Texans now. Fantasy draft. You get to I won't go full in depth because we don't want to be here till tomorrow morning discussing random players and what they can and can't do. But quarterback, receiver, tight end, and then just a couple of defensive guys. And I'm not just talking now. I'm talking. This is field the dream stuff. You get to build.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Graham's favorite team. Who's on there? So quarterback, tight end, receiver, and then just a couple of defensive guys. Maybe one of the front seven and one of the back.
Yeah. Quarterback. It's hard to look past Brady. Really, you know what I mean. You want that guy in there. Probably. Haunted us all for many years. So we'd like to have the ghost play for us. I'd say left tackle Michael Orr from the Ravens, fantastic player. Running back, Arian Foster. When Arian Foster was on his game, nobody could look at him. So I'm going to go with Arian Foster. A wide receiver. Oh man, Randy Moss.
Yeah,
Moss. For me. Defensive side of the ball. Ooh. Well, JJ Watt. You've got to have JJ in there. Defensive end. Linebacker. Ray Lewis. Absolute menace. And also James Harrison.
Okay.
From the Steelers. Was it James Harrison? I think it was, is it not? This one of the scariest dudes on the gridiron ever. Everyone used to crap their pants when he was on. And then I'll just pick one more back. You got to have Darrell Revis in there. Revis Island. So yeah, that's just a mix of players who I would have had on my team if I could go build it and they will come. So yeah.
Very nice. Well, I'm aware you've got work nice and early in the morning. So if you've got any questions for us.
I can't. No, I'm just hoping for a good game. Yeah. I'm just. Where will you be watching it? Just at home, or have you got a watch party?
Just at home. I think this one. Nice. Pace yourself, steady into the season. Probably be a watch party if I can see some decent talent go in and we're getting somewhere. But I get too emotional when I'm watching.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily throwing stuff around and screaming, but I'm talking as if the players could hear me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The missus has to remind me they can't hear you.
You've got your own headset on and you're screaming at them.
Yeah, I like this. Go in.
But I'll tell you one thing that's good about the two teams is how healthy they are going into the game. It's unusual to see injury reports on both sides are so small. I think you were 2 and we were 1. Unheard of. That makes it even more exciting. We're going to be throwing everything at each other.
Yeah. Right. I think that's it. So I'll end the stream there. Graham, I'd just thanks for joining us. It's nice to speak. Obviously, we're quite Colts heavy. We get a lot of Colts fans on the show, so it's nice to get rival fans on. And like you say, best of luck going forward after Sunday. And then after, I think is it week 8 or something like that, maybe a bit later.
Yeah, 7 or 8 or something.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. Thanks everyone for watching, and see you all Sunday when the Colts inevitably smash the Texans.
Yeah, you had to get it in.